It's Mindfully with Tumisha again. Welcome to this episode. I still have Ifeoluwa Yanuura. Oh God, I always forget that. English. Yeah, what do we do on Mindfully with Tumisha? It is where we explore the depths of mental health with compassion and understanding. As we were rounding up last week's episode, I said I was going to keep it fair. We're going to talk marriage. And today we will be exploring the dynamics of marriage within the context of mental health. And I can assure you that this conversation, we're going to try to hold ourselves in. So we would, let me start again. Ifeoluwa, thank you for doing this. How are you today? Are we still doing good?
Doing good. We are doing good.
All right. Okay, so let's start with the big question that is, well, maybe because, well, you and I, we met over this kind of conversation on Facebook when we now started saying we should have conversations on mental health and how it affects marriages. So let's start from there. How does mental health impact the dynamics of a marriage?
So, again, the way being ill physically could affect the dynamics of a marriage. Is the way mental illness could potentially affect the dynamics of a marriage. Because, and I think one of the huge problems that I have identified over the years is communication and letting go of selves. When two people come together to be in a marriage, self needs to go out of the window, because you have to be able to meet the needs of your partner and vice versa. And one of them is also to make sure that whatever you're doing is not putting their mental health at risk. Because if you're not pulling your weight, it could potentially put their mental health at risk. When two people come together,
in what areas can this mental, because sometimes mental health can sound very ambiguous and vague, because a person is, I just want to see if I can make it as lay as possible. A person
let's use pregnancy as an example.
Okay.
Pregnancy, see, I'm not even going to mince words. When a woman gets pregnant, her entire life is at risk. She could fall down and die the next day. Your risks are higher when you're pregnant. You could develop clots, you could develop high blood pressure. There's 1,000,001 illnesses. There's 1,000,001 things that could go wrong, when a woman is pregnant. And one of the things that a lot of women benefit from is when they have a very supportive partner. When a woman is pregnant, her libido could decrease, her libido could increase. Pregnancy affects women in different ways. When a woman is pregnant, her ability to take on physical tasks is significantly reduced. If she used to be up and about, strong, do the chores, take on all the physical activities in their own, when she's physically pregnant, that will fly out of the window. Okay? That is why I said self is very, very important. That is not the time to call your wife lazy. That is not the time to talk down on their physical appearance, because pregnancy also changes women's physical appearance. Some women will have very big nose, like I do when I'm pregnant. darker. Some women, you don't even recognize them anymore. Pregnancy
Mm,
just changed their entire physical appearance. They
mm,
don't look or feel as pretty or as beautiful as they used to feel. That is not the time. If I don't think whether your wife is pregnant or not, I don't think a sensible
If,
man
if there's any time that you should be
at
unkind
any
in
time
bed.
be unkind
Okay,
with
so let's
words
balance this. Let's
to your
balance this
partner.
here a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was going to say let's balance this. Of course, we
okay.
know, and we also know women who I know a lot. Trust me when I say I know a lot of women
I-
who cut down their men, you know,
Of course.
and yeah, and sometimes I know I might come off as if I'm supporting, but then I have old brothers and I have a son, but facetiousness aside, but sometimes I think that when it comes to marriages and the roles of leadership and all of that in marriages, uh, there's little room given to men to allow them feel, and
Mhm.
and I think that goes a long way to affect the dynamics of any relationship, because a man that doesn't feel appreciated, a man that does not feel valued, will go to a place where they feel valued, and that cuts across both genders anyway. We don't feel valued at home, so why should we think that men should also
And
not? Yeah.
this is the reason why I don't, again, this is my own opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to agree with it. In fact, nobody has to agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
But personally, the idea that one person has to provide financially for the family, I have a problem with it.
Fair.
Because of the stress and the mental stress that it's putting on the man.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine having to think about, which a lot of men do back in the day and they do in this day and age. It's a home. Everybody has a role to play. Your life in that marriage should not be worse off than when you came in. Say this. If two people are in a relationship and I don't want to
Say it, don't worry, it's a safe space.
I don't want to quote scriptures because this is
Please
not
go ahead. If that is your terms, if it's your terms of reference, why not? Yeah.
For reference, the Bible says 2 shall chase 1,000. So it says 1 shall chase 1,000 and 2 shall chase 10,000. If you don't say 2 shall chase, if you times 1 times 2 is 2,000, isn't it? It doesn't say 2 shall chase 2,000. It doesn't say 3,000. It doesn't say 4. It doesn't say 5. It doesn't say 6, 7, or 8, or 9. It says 10,000, which means that if as an individual I'm operating at 1,000, right? When I'm married to somebody, I'm supposed to be operating at times 10 of what I was operating at when I was one person. It means that my life is supposed to be 10 times better, including my mental health.
All right, so what roles, because of what you just said now, it brings me to the place of empathy, right? It takes us to the place of empathy. Before I ask what role empathy plays in navigating these challenges, how would you define empathy?
Empathy, I can define empathy as when you have compassion for your fellow human being. When you're kind to your fellow human being. I don't want to go into the Wikipedia, sorry, the in-depth meaning.
Okay, so if I have 1,001 times that I've been asked to define empathy, of course, the last thing you will hear anybody say about empathy is you working in other person's shoes. Fine,
Yeah.
but this is what I say. Empathy is you being brave enough to allow this person bleed to you and also allow them to lead how they want to be healed. Because no matter how much you wear their shoes, it can never size you.
Yeah, I don't even believe in the treat people how you
they
want to be
treat you.
treated.
You know, I think, yeah.
How they want to be treated.
Yeah, you know, because
they want to be treated might not be the way I want to be treated.
And a person who comes from in the context of marriage now, a person who comes from a home where physical abuse is a norm, and another person who is coming from a home where they have conversations to resolve issues. Are you telling me that I should love that person the way the Lord no.
Anything that puts people's lives at risk, anything that you don't want. So whilst we're saying that treat people how they want to be treated, do you want to be beaten? Do you want to be shamed? Do you want to be slapped? Do you want to be nobody likes being slapped. Nobody likes being physically hurt, you know. So why do you think it's okay to do that to somebody else? Even though they came from a home where physical abuse is, you know, back to the conversation I said in the beginning. Said their life is supposed to be 10 times better when they met you, not 10 times worse. Physical abuse is not going to make their lives 10 times better. It's going to make their lives 10 times worse. If they're coming from a home where physical abuse was the norm, when they're here, they're supposed to see the light. They're supposed to see the joys. They're supposed to see the
different. You're supposed to be a different mirror. You know, a different mirror.
Feel safe. I can assure you that a child who grew up in a home where physical abuse was the norm, they never felt safe in that home. I can tell you for free. They never felt safe. They were scared all the time.
Yeah. I know that for a sure. I know that
when they're here.
I know them for experience.
So when
So when
they're here, they are supposed to feel safe.
Okay, so I'm going to be a little bit. I'm supposed to. Yeah, I know this will sound off to someone, but hey, that's my terms of reference. I'm supposed to take permission to say this, but there's no permission needed because hey, he knows. You know, one of the first culture shock I had as a married woman was my husband saying we should sit down and talk. How? Why? Where? Why? What? You know, I come from a home where there's a situation, you sort it yourself, and then you come with a solution. No, there's no community meeting. What are you? Why? Why you? You know, it was, and it's taking. We're going on 18 years now. We've been together for about 21 years, but we're going on 18 years marriage now. And I still struggle. I'm not even gonna lie. I still struggle with, we need to talk. And of course, we've been able to get to a point where, okay, if you want to talk, all right, you know. But, you know, it was a huge one. Another one, and I think is instructive because of the examples that we have, the physical abuse or whatever abuse that we're talking about. I think this is instructive. when we got our place, when we're going to get married 18 years ago, we got our place and we're cleaning it up. Yeah. In fact, that's a good story, trust me. you know. Um, um, uh, and I was doing what my mother did when she wanted to clean the palazzo, and that's she would bleach oil and then put soap and then clean it. And then I was bleaching oil, and it was on a stove. It was very close to the kitchenette that we just done. We just done it, and then the oil caught on fire, and of course the net caught on fire. He said, "Believe you me." I started shaking, and I was saying, "I'm sorry, I'm going to fix it. I'm sorry, no, I'm going to fix it. Don't worry, I'm going to fix it." And my husband was like, "This is your own, no? Yeah, you're also." And he had said that for good 3-4 minutes before it sunk. Before it sunk. And then he took me out of the kitchen, he sat in the sitting room and said, hey, this is yours. I don't care what happened. And of course, like I said, he knows it a little bit and he saw a little bit. But he's like, no, this is yours. But it took, I'm telling you, 4 to 5 minutes for you to think that nobody was going to beat me for burning and nobody was going to ask me to pay. Nobody was going to. It took me quite a bit of time. And then after that happened, of course, we're not living together. We just went to clean. And then then he sent me a text and he said, I can never forget. And he said, babe, this is your home. What do you want to do differently? It was then that I understood that my response to that oil catching on fire, the net catching on fire, was a response to how my story of origin. Yes, it was a trauma response to my story of origin, and it had a different one. Man, don't get me wrong. His mom is calm and all that, but his mom also is Yoruba, and but they didn't have that kind of response sequence in their house. They didn't have it. I had it. So it was at that point that I knew that I needed to serve myself. I didn't even know I was going to be a mental health advocate. I didn't even know I was living with bipolar at the time, but I knew after that text message that I needed, if I wanted this marriage to work, or before I know what's happening, I'll start pushing this guy, because of course he would get tired at some point, like, after we are begging you, get tired. So the question, that's why I asked that question as to how empathy can help in navigating these questions that we have within relationship. Now, again, it leads me to this question, Ife. Cultural and societal norms, how do they shape the perceptions of the marriage dynamics?
That's a very good question, right? I think that a lot of our cultural practices are not necessarily bad. Only if people understood why they do certain things. I think what is lacking is a general understanding of why certain things are being done, or if these things are still relevant to this day and age. One of them would be things like mundane things, like maybe the way we wash babies when they are born. We've seen that research has shown that some of the practices that we do can be detrimental to the development of babies. And again, when you have these conversations with people, some people would say that, oh, but we turned out okay, but what about the babies that died? Right. We can't say because we're doing something and it's working for certain people. What about
That
the
is
ones that
right.
is not?
Mm.
In medicine, something that I've learned in medicine is that, see, for every treatment, Tumishe, there are risks to every treatment. Okay. But what they do is they look at the risks versus the benefits. And if the risks outweighs the benefits, they are not using it. However, if the benefits outweighs the risks, it doesn't mean that cancer, chemo is one of the widely accepted. There are a lot of side effects to chemo. Most people who go through chemo end up with long-term illnesses that can be managed with some medication. But again, the cancer is gone. But the cancer has left you with maybe alopecia or maybe kidney issues that can be managed long term. But bear in mind, if we don't treat that cancer with chemo, it will kill you. You won't see your grandchildren. But if we kill that cancer with chemo and then it gives you alopecia, yeah, you will be bored, but you will live to see your grandchildren. And we can do hair transplant, we can use wigs, we can deal with that side of your life with other methods. Does that make sense? So
yes, it does. Yes, it does.
That is progressive. We live in a world that is advancing. We live in a world that is growing. We can't keep living in the past. We can't keep saying, oh, this is how it's done. So therefore, we need to keep doing it.
All right. So what are some effective ways?
If it's putting people's lives at risk, if the risks outweighs the benefits, let's drop it.
Okay. All right, I gotcha. All right. So what are some effective ways for couples to navigate disagreements and conflicts?
Empathy, Michelle.
I'm looking at your face. I'm like, oh, your face is calculating. How do I say this? But go ahead, say it. We're fine. We can take it.
Dropping self. A lot of people come into conversations defensive, subjective. Take a deep breath. Look at that. Look into that situation from the outside. It's easier to me. One thing I've learned lately is that it's easier to look at things from the outside than from the inside. If two friends have an issue and then they call you to come and mediate, one person tells you their own story, the other person tells you their own side of the story. If you're a very objective person, you can tell where the problem is just by listening to both of them. Right? Yeah. But because they are looking at it from their own different perspectives, they will not see each other's point of view. And they will never resolve that conflict. But if two people who have an issue with each other can look at the situation from the outside. Okay, I'm an outsider looking at this situation from the outside perspective. Where did I go wrong?
I'm with you.
It's not about being right all the time. It's about living peacefully with each other.
All right,
so some days,
go ahead.
So some days you will have to look at yourself and ask yourself some difficult questions. Where am I getting it wrong? Where can I be better? What can I do better? What can I give? Can I look at this situation? Can I look at this conflict? And we need to also understand that you didn't grow up in the same household.
Yeah.
I can tell you I love you, and you're hearing I hate you.
Very possible. That's the truth.
There's wrong with your hearing. You're not dumb. You're not a dumb person. You're a very intelligent person. You're just not hearing what the other person is saying. And that happens a lot.
So active listening, empathy, being objective, those are the things that you have said now. All right. So let's quickly look at how life transitions. And the list of life transitions is plenty. You know, there are people who are single parents who now married a person who's never married, who's never had children before, and they're starting a new life. There's the becoming parents even after that. There's empty nesting. You know, there's the children becoming teenagers and all of that. How would you advise that? You know, an averagely healthy home navigates these transitions?
Conversations needs to happen, and expectations needs to be dealt with.
Expectations need to be dealt with. I think that's the crux of the matter, isn't it? We won't have expectations going into any relationship, and if those expectations are met,
there's a problem. There's a problem.
I think you just hit the nail on the head. I think
there's
you
a
just
problem. Somebody who's a single parent going into a new relationship where they're not, you know, this person has never been a parent. You've been parenting for years before you got into
this relationship.
I would expect the person who doesn't have children before, who is not taking the role of a step parent, to ask certain questions as to what can I do to be a better parent to your child? How can I support you? What are the rules? What are the boundaries? What have you been doing before now? So that we can be on the same page and run the ship with the same voice.
I feel
because
like
there can't be two extremes to that, where the person that is coming into the relationship who doesn't have children is very hostile to the child, or they are a positive parent.
And then they overcompensate. That's another scenario.
That's another scenario. They overcompensate. That is also bad for the child, because children are very smart. Because their mother would not be the bad. Their step parents will be their favorite adult. So if the child knows that you are on the same page, you're speaking the same language, they can't come in between both of you.
Okay. Okay, so Ife is asking us basically to take responsibility and accountability for our relationships. Basically, that's what you're saying, isn't it? That's what you're saying. Okay, so now,
take responsibility, take accountability, put your hands up when you're wrong, reflect, learn from your mistakes, say sorry when you need to, and be teachable.
So here's one that is very, I don't know, personally is very somehow to me. And that is how couples can prioritize self-care individually. while also nurturing the well-being of their relationship. Because a lot of people, I know a lot of people, I know, and maybe I've been in such relationships where the partner is overwhelmingly helicopterish, and you don't have time for yourself. You can't. And then because we're always, just as you say, we're always preaching that we do everything together and all that. So the question is straight here: how do I prioritize my self-care individually while not neglecting the well-being of my relationship?
Mm. It's a tricky one to me for me personally, because again, if you look at my Christian mind, my Christian head, it says, and two shall become one. Why are we doing things individually? But we also need to understand that we have different interests.
Mm-hmm.
We have different needs. My question is, how do we look at each of these needs and support each other's need?
All right.
Rather than trying to force the other to want your own need. My husband doesn't like certain things. My husband doesn't do certain things. I think it would be wrong of me to want to force him to do those things. And I also think it would be unfair if he then undermines, like if he looks at me like, why do you need to do those things anyway? Do you get what I mean? Like, I like it. The fact that you don't like it, I shouldn't like it anymore. Do you understand? We just want different things. We just want different activities. However, you can manage that by still being able, trying to manage your different needs by doing, respecting each other's boundaries in terms of, she enjoys listening to certain type of music. She enjoys, we're both Christians. We listen to Christian music, but you'd be surprised that we don't even listen to the same type of Christian music.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
You're driving in his car, you're going to be listening to a different type of music in his car. If you're driving in my car, if you're going to, but again, over the years, because I've listened to that music, I've come to enjoy it myself.
Yeah.
Do you understand? But it would not be my go-to music in my car.
Unfortunately, I don't think I can. I can't say what you're saying. So because I come from a music background. Yeah, my dad was a pianist. My younger brother is a pianist. I conducted a choir for a bit, and there are some songs I will just shut down. Like I'll literally shut down. And these are the kind of songs that. So my husband, on the other hand, he's the kind of person you call eclectic, right? It does not affect, not as far as it's concerned, this music I'm listening to, this one I want to vibe to at this moment. But the way I listen to music is totally different. I'm probably listening to the arrangement. I'm listening to I'm listening to the kick.
I think we're the same because I'm also very musically inclined. Yeah. So when I'm listening to music, I'm not just listening to the song, I'm listening to the instrument, the drum, I'm listening to the bassist, I'm listening to the
I want to hear that bass line. I'm able to
hear the progression.
Do you understand?
I'm listening to the technicalities as well, because for me, it's all part of the experience. That is what makes it a holistic experience for me. So there are certain music that I probably won't listen to because maybe I didn't like the progression, or maybe I didn't enjoy. Maybe I just didn't enjoy it could be the backing vocalist that I'm like, it's not just up to par. It's not my. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but for him, it's not like that. He would listen to anything because he can't even hold a note. Bless him. So, he doesn't listen to the music. So For him, it's a totally different conversation. It's a totally different his own idea of listening to music is different from mine, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
It doesn't make it, it's not a competition. It's not a your way is your way.
It's your way. So okay, so let me be more direct with my question. So would you subscribe to a partner allowing their partner to go have their own kind of fun, and then they'll still come back together?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Nothing. I don't. Again, we're learning. I don't know it. But currently, I mean, this opinion might change tomorrow.
Okay.
If I feel like the benefits, so if I feel like the risk outweighs the benefits.
Yeah.
As of now, I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything with people retaining their individualities within their
relationships. Yeah. Thank you very much.
One thing is to communicate.
Yeah.
And things at the expense of the other person.
Again, kindness and being accountable and being responsible for your action. Yeah.
And respecting
to the other partner.
Party.
So before we round this off, I need to ask, is a need. What are some signs that are that a marriage may be struggling due to underlying mental health issues? Now, mental health issues here, for those who are listening, I'm not talking about diagnosable mental health issues. I'm not talking about depression. I'm not talking about bipolar. I'm not talking about schizophrenia or the spectrum of it.
You're talking about the stress, the basic one.
Yeah, the basic insomness.
Yes. As well. Communication will break down to Michelle. Communication automatically shuts down. The other party is not aware of what the other party is doing. The other party is not communicating their needs, how they're feeling, how, communication pretty much shuts down. One person is not listening or one person is not speaking. And when the other person is not listening because they're being hurt by the other person's actions, because the other person is assuming that the other person, there's just a lot, it just becomes chaotic.
And I think if you don't agree, that's fair. But I also think that one of the signs or symptoms that something is not well in a relationship, if there are children, is to look at the children. The children will be acting out. The children will be taking advantage of the loopholes. The chaos.
They will take advantage of the chaos. Yes, they will.
Yeah. So if your child, this is not a one size fits all, but it's what I've seen over and over, even as a coach and as a therapist, is what I've seen over and over. And 95% of the time, when parents come with their children and they say to me that their child is acting out and they didn't used to act out before, by the time I have a private conversation
down and have somewhere between the parents,
by the time I have a conversation privately with the child, I find out that the child is acting out because their sense of safety has been taken away.
It's gone.
By the chaos in their parents' relationships. So please, for the sake of your children, be accountable, be responsible, respect one another, take care of yourself.
In the West, the reason why children are taken away from households is not necessarily because the children are being abused or it's safety. Once a child's safety is being threatened, it could be threatened by illness, it could be threatened by breakdown in mental health, which is what we now.
Yeah.
If a child's safety is being questioned because two parents are not communicating, or two parents, and they can tell or investigate that this child will come or has come to significant harm. Because of that, not necessarily, it could, potential abuse is looming.
All right. So my final question to you before I ask you your final thoughts. My final question to you will be: what strategies can couples then use to support each other's mental well-being and wholesomeness in this relationship?
Communication. Again, you can't do anything without communicating.
Yeah.
Without letting your partner know what you want and how you want to be supported. Also, just look out for the non-verbal cues. You've lived with this person for a while. You've known them for a while. When they're not speaking, what are they not saying? How can you get them to speak? What are the things that you can do to make them feel better? What are the things that you can do to brighten up their day? Back to mental health now. How can you, again, my go-to example, you have a wife who's just had a baby, they're really struggling, they've not slept, it's your day off. How do you support them? Call their friends to come and stay with them or take the baby off them for a few hours. You can go to the spa or you can go to the cafe, spend a few hours there, just take some fresh air, come back.
Okay, so I was thinking this
little thing.
Yeah.
Looking out for your person. Do you know what I mean? Like just looking out for them, looking out for your person.
Okay, so I was going to make this another episode, but I think it's something that we could whip into this particular conversation. Did you, because of course we're hearing this Jackpot syndrome, and we hear people, marriages that seem to be very almost perfect in Nigeria, they go to the West and then it's become chaotic, and then because the amount of narrative online is very heartbreaking, of people who relocated and then their relationship just imploded. You being an immigrant and a married immigrant, did you marry from here or you married there? And how did you navigate that?
My case is a bit different.
Okay.
My husband was living, so we had a bit of long distance relationship.
Okay.
It was at one point. I was there. I was in Nigeria. Then of course he came back. We got married. He came back. Then I had to do my own. So we didn't start our married life physically together in Nigeria. We started our married life together here in the UK. So to a large extent, I wouldn't, for married couples in Nigeria, I don't have an experience of, how that dynamics work.
Right.
But to your question, I think that let's even throw out the word perfect. There's no perfect marriage anywhere. When you said marriages that perfect, they are perfect because that is exactly what they wanted people to see. I might be wrong. I genuinely believe that a lot of marriages that come into the UK to break up, the cracks have been there. The only issue that you've now moved, we need to Timothy, we need to have these conversations where we know that certain things enable certain things in marriages. That if you go with that same mindset to the West, there will be problems.
That's the elephant in the room, isn't it?
And it's the big elephant in the room.
And the pink elephant for that matter.
Exactly.
The living room.
she's the big elephant in a woman who was not working, who was working, who has been the housewife for the most part of your marriage in Nigeria, who is now suddenly moved to the UK and is now found herself earning money. There will be issues if it's not properly addressed. A man has been the provider, who has been the one, and this is why I said that we need to start moving away from a one-man financial provider household, even in Nigeria. It's problematic to me, and it's causing a lot of problems. And I'll tell you one of the issues I have with that is that one person, and I'm not saying this is always the case, but in a lot of cases, there is always abuse of power. It's one person that is providing financially. The other person might not feel respected enough because they feel like they're not bringing anything into that relationship, which is not true. Because being an housewife doesn't mean, the fact that you're not bringing finances into the marriage doesn't mean that you're not bringing anything to that relationship. You'll be surprised how much they do as well. Don't get me wrong as well. There are a lot of relationships in the West who are a one-man. There are a lot of relationships, but we need to understand that the dynamics are different. Dynamics are different. So it's trying to find that balance can be hard. A man who is working, who's been the provider, who, when it comes home, dinner is ready, he doesn't know how to switch off the tap in his kitchen. He doesn't know how to use the washing machine. He has not done these things in the last 15 years. Suddenly moves to the UK. Now has to operate the washing machine. You be like, where do you want him to start from?
Okay. So how do we manage? So because I know that some people are Jackbarians and some are already, and some are thinking about it. So what would you be saying to them now?
I think that personally, these conversations need to be had. Like, the elephant in the room needs to be addressed. There has to be a plan. This culture that we're going into, how does it look like? What is my life going to look like? What tools and resources do I need to become this person or to fit into that environment?
Gotcha.
Oh. Because again, Tumishi, a lot of people have fit into that environment easily, without any problems, without their marriages breaking up.
Fair enough. That's true.
They opened up their minds to this new culture, to this new life.
All right. Thank you very much. Of course, to everyone listening, these questions or this conversation that we've had, we aim to use it to foster meaningful and insightful conversation within you. Outside here, of course, you can always join us on social media when this is posted. You can, if you have more questions and all that. Of course, I'm going to post Ife's link if you have any questions for her in the description of this show. What this conversation is a conversation starter, really. This particular one on marriage is a conversation starter. The one on parenting too is a conversation starter. You yourself and your partner can sit down and then begin to do the work, because you cannot have a good home without working. It just doesn't happen. You have to work it. Right? It's a conversation about the intersection of marriage and mental health, providing for the family, guiding yourself, supporting yourself. These are the things that you have to have conversations with. Now, I must say this, that because it is a marriage does not mean it is not a relationship you should work on. Marriage is not full stop.
It's not. It's not static. It
It's not
evolves.
static. It evolves. Things are going to change. Your man is going to change.
I'm not going to
woman
say,
is going to change.
I'm not going to come here and say that, oh, whether it's good for men to not be domesticated. That's not the point of this conversation, and I'm not going to go into that conversation.
I'm not even going to have it with you.
Because that's a whole different conversation on its own.
Yeah.
But if you're going into a society where we have now agreed that, unfortunately, because of of course, you're going into a new culture where you still need to find a job, you need to find your feet, which means that in order for you to survive financially, the two people in the relationship needs to work.
Yeah.
Right? How do we then manage this new
reality?
Which is a conversation that the two people involved need to sit down and have, which means that I know and I understand that you've not been doing this domestic work before, but moving down there would mean
it's possible that you're going to do that.
If you're not comfortable with doing it, maybe we should not go. And let us carry on with this our life here, the way it's going. It's working for us. Let's stick to it. Here.
Crucial and difficult conversations.
Exactly. Those conversations needs to happen. But I don't think, when you look at Jackperians, I don't think that those conversations are happening. I don't think there's a lot of planning going into the emotional and the mental brain
coming out.
Location on family as well. There's not a lot of conversation that goes into how are we going to support ourselves mentally and emotionally, and how are we going to support ourselves? What do we do to make sure that we keep the fire burning?
All right, thank you very much. A good note to round off this conversation. So, one word for that would encompass those who are about to get married, those who have been married for ages, those who are newly married, and all of that. What would you be saying?
Just love yourselves.
I can get that. Say it again.
Just love yourselves. It's easy. Every single issue can be resolved if love is present. I'm not talking about the butterfly in my tummy, physical attraction kind of love. I'm talking about the love that takes away self. The love that is the love, the agape kind of love.
The 1 Corinthians 13 kind of love.
Love. Thank you. If we can teach ourselves, if we can, and I'm speaking to myself too, Michelle. I'm not perfect, because sometimes you want to do something, but your ego gets in the way.
Yourself,
but always putting all of love above self, you will always win.
All right. So I will end it this way. Yeah, are you still with me? Yeah. So this is how
I was going to say, outside of your marriage relationships, even in your relationships with other people, with your girlfriend, with your children, with your in-laws, with removing self will help you to rise above the waters all the time.
All right. So I have quoted this before on the show, and I'll quote it again. To love someone is to attend 1,000 births of who they are becoming, right? And hopefully the person you are choosing is willing to attend 1,000 births of who you are becoming. And do not forget that the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz is something that you should just work with. I talk about it all the time, and that's because I strongly believe in it. The first agreement says you should be impeccable with your word, speak with integrity, say only what you mean, avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of peace and love. The second agreement says, do not take anything personally, which interprets as nothing others do is because of you. Nothing you do is because of others, really. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream, right? Take a step, listen, where do you function or how can you function in that reality? And if you cannot function in that reality, you know what to do. When you release the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victims of their needless suffering. The third is do not make assumptions. You ought to find courage to ask questions and express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstanding, sadness, and drama. And with just this one agreement, you can completely transform yourself. What I love about the 4 agreements is agreement number 4. It says, always do your best. Because there are days you're going to fall off all of these agreements. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to when you're sick. It will be different when you're angry as opposed to when you're addictive. Okay, so under any circumstances, just simply do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. All right. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
After Lagos did not allow us to have this.
I know.
I'm grateful that you still took time out to have this conversation with me. I love you and thank you for being such a wonderful
person. Thank you so much, Felicia. Thanks for having me. I'll definitely be back.
I will be expecting you. All right, until next time, love yourself, love your neighbor, love your country. Above all of this, love God. Yes, the essence of your being.
Thank you so much.